Okay, so welcome everyone. Lovely to have you all this evening. As I mentioned, grab your pillows, your blankets. It doesn't matter if you have too many around you. It's just nice to have a few options there in case you did want a bit of support for knees and hips and things like that to soften it for your joints. So we're going to make a start lying down. You just want to make sure that you have enough support underneath your head. So whether that's a pillow off of your bed or a folded up blanket, totally up to you, maybe one on top of the other if you want a little more height. And then we're actually going to start lying down with the legs crossed, just as we would cross them if we're sitting with the legs crossed, just like this. So we're going to lie down with the legs crossed, right shin in front of left shin. Bring yourself down onto your back and just make sure that you wriggle the pillow and blanket right into the curve of your neck. Lift the hips up for a moment, just tuck your tailbone so you try and flatten the lower back onto the floor. And then we're just allowing the legs to fall out to the sides. So this might be quite a big stretch for your hip flexors, so these muscles here at the front of the pelvis. You might feel it into the quads, and you might feel the lower back almost arching up away from the floor a little more than usual. So if you need to pop in any extra supports underneath your body, please do. It might just be rolling up a couple of blankets or grabbing a couple of cushions that are the same size and putting it underneath your outer thighs, your hips, just to give you a bit of support there. Or it might be rolling up something just to slide underneath the back and decrease that gap between your lower back and the floor. So try a few different things. That's only if it's really intense when you first arrive there. And this is a little more hip opening than we usually do in our opening pose. But it's a really nice release for these muscles that get short and tight in the front of the body from the way we sit. And I think a lot of us are spending more time sitting than we ever have. So really good to get into the habit of just releasing and opening the front of the body. Arms might be at the sides of your body. You might rest the hands onto the belly. You might float the arms up overhead and just let the backs of the hands rest onto the floor. Now, wherever you have the arms, make sure you're comfortable with the option that you've chosen. And then close the eyes. And just take a moment here to arrive on your mat. And to start that process of scanning through your body and just checking in to see if you are holding on to tension anywhere. This is a slightly stronger hip opener. And so it's possible that there are parts of the body that are contracting or aren't releasing as much as they could do in order to offer a bit of support or protection to your body in this position. So just see if bit by bit you can scan through. You notice that you're holding tension in the glutes or in your back muscles or in your shoulders, just seeing if you can release it over a few breaths. And then you're just tuning into that rise and fall of your belly. Feeling all the points of contact your back has with your mat and with your props. And starting to slow down your breathing. Our exhalations are naturally longer than our inhalations anyway, but we're really trying to slow them down even more. Helps us just to bring ourselves into the present, slow everything down, and start to turn the attention inwards. We're just going to take another 4 deep breaths with the right leg crossed in front of the left leg. Don't worry if you have the other leg crossed in front, we'll be changing in a moment. Taking your final deep breath here. And then we want to slowly release the position. So when we come out of yin poses, it's normal to feel a little bit stuck or like the body isn't ready to move yet. We're often hanging or we're quite deep into a pose at the end of a few minutes. So use your hands just down at the outer thighs. Use your feet as well, kind of heel toe the feet out until they're underneath the knees. And just stretch the legs out along your mat for a moment. Give them a little bit of a roll out, a little bit of a shake. And then we're simply going to change the cross on the legs. So we're going to bring the right leg in first and cross the left leg in front. So when you sit on the floor with the legs crossed, you probably have a default cross that you always go for. And the way you usually sit is probably going to be a little more comfortable for you here. Still means that you're going to be getting a strong opening in the front of the pelvis, maybe even into the chest. It might be a little more accessible on the side that you usually cross in front. So if it has felt quite different having the right leg in front than having the left in front, that's really normal. None of us are perfectly balanced. Just check in, make sure that the arms are still comfortable where you chose to place them. And if they're not, just move them into another place. And then close the eyes back down. You're just tuning into that rise and fall of your belly, that rise and fall of your chest, and that gentle expansion and release of your rib cage. So slow, steady breathing rhythm. Really trying to slow down the length of your exhale. We'll just do a short and simple breathing technique while we are in this stretch to help focus the mind a little bit, and also to encourage the breath to slow down, particularly the exhalations. We're going to take an inhale through the nose. Let it go through the nose. Inhale for 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale deeply and exhale completely. Take a final breath where you are, really trying to release your body. And then taking the hands underneath the thighs, ease the knees back up to the ceiling, heel toe the feet out to the side. And again, just stretching the legs out for a moment and giving your legs a little bit of a roll from side to side, a little bit of a shake out. And then let's reach the arms up overhead. So we're giving ourselves a full body stretch. Inhale, stretching away through the fingertips. Exhale, hug one knee in, hug the other knee into your chest, into the body. And just give your back a little bit of a release down into your mat. So interlace the hands if you can, if it's accessible to you. Otherwise, the hands resting on the knees is fine. If you need a bit more space in the knee joints, then hands into the backs of the thighs will help. Close the eyes, relax your shoulders, and just allow the weight of the arms to hug the knees in close to your body and open up your lower back onto the floor. So Apanasana, knee to chest pose. It's a really nice decompression for the spine. Nice reset for the pelvis. And as you're breathing here, just see if you can relax your shoulders and your shoulder blades down to the floor. Right at the tops of your thighs, so right into that hip crease. See if you can relax the hip flexors. So they'll be shortening with the legs drawing in towards them, but we're going to try not to contract them and store tension there. So find some softness. And then decide for the last 10 deep breaths here, whether you want to stay still or whether you want to rock a little bit from side to side. Or whether you want to start moving a little more, bigger rocking motion. And just see how the body feels today. You might just want to be still and take it easy. You might want to bring that little bit of movement in to start boosting blood flow to the pelvis and to your spine. Just give yourself 3 more deep breaths here. We've got a couple of hip releases coming up. So a couple of yin poses to release our hips, and then we'll get into some of the deeper relaxation. Once you've finished that last breath there, that last inhale and exhale to come back to center, just releasing the soles of the feet down onto the floor, sliding the legs out. And again, just giving your legs a bit of a shake out. You might feel that the effects of that pose and the creases of the hips right at the top of your thighs. So shake the legs out, get the blood flowing, and then reach the arms up overhead. Nice deep breath there, full body stretch. And then as you breathe out, arms are coming back to the sides of your body. We're bending the knees and grounding the soles of the feet. And then we're going to keep right foot on the floor, pick up the left foot, cross the ankle over the thigh. You want the foot flexed and you want the ankle and the knee roughly on the same level. So we don't want the ankle coming all the way down here and the knee up there. It puts too much pressure on that knee joint. So just open the back of the knee a little bit, slide that ankle a bit further up your thigh. We're going to take a breath in here. As we breathe out, we are dropping both legs down to the right. So your left foot is going to be standing on the floor, knees pointing up to the ceiling. And because we want to try and release around this left thigh and left hip, we're going to use the hands for a bit of support. So first option is just to take your right fingertips, press them up against your left thigh, and then try to relax that leg completely. It takes a little bit of time. We really have to think about switching off the muscles around this hip. But fingertips there just means that the leg isn't going to slide anywhere. It's not going to fold in towards your face. Left hand can rest on your belly. Other option is to take your right hand, reach down for that left ankle, and then same idea, we're trying to relax the legs completely. So they're not holding themselves there. There's no contraction in the muscles. We're just breathing into that deep stretch. And it might be quite a deep stretch around your hips. If it's way too strong and you need to ease out, you're going to step your foot up onto your thigh. So you can still join us with those supports with the hands, fingertips to the thigh, or hand to the ankle, but it's going to be a little less intense for your hip. So either foot to the floor or pop it up on your right thigh. And then once you have made all those little adjustments, switched everything off, closing down the eyes, we're here for about 2 minutes, which really should be about 5 or 6, 1 minute, 5 or 6 deep breaths. So looking at 10 to 12 deep breaths in this pose. And it can be tempting when the stretch is a little stronger to breathe shallow or to hold your breath. So try not to do that. It actually has the opposite effect, and it sends your body into flight or fight mode because it thinks there's a threat. So keep your breath slow and steady so your body reacts by relaxing rather than tensing up. If you're a little bit newer to yin yoga, yin poses are typically held for 2 to 5 minutes. They usually revolve around releasing tension from the lower spine, the hips, the legs, so the lower body. And it's about working with the connective tissue in the body. So we're not just working at that muscular level to release tension and tightness, but actually working with the layers of connective tissue in our body. When those layers aren't moved, they become a little stuck together, and that's when we get kind of chronic tightness in the muscles. That's when we can get injuries. So we're just giving ourselves 3 last deep breaths here. The real challenge of yin yoga is the mental challenge. Your mind will be telling you that you can't stay there any longer, that it's uncomfortable, that you're bored, that you can't wait to move. If you're thinking it, it's not unusual at all. It's all part of the practice. We're trying to find a bit of ease through that with our breath. All right, we're going to come out of there. My advice would be use your right hand, scoop it underneath your foot, and then support the weight of that top leg as you roll back onto the mat. And just shimmy your hips and your body back into the center of the mat. So shoulders line up with the hips and spine is straight down between those 2 points. And then we're going to come into our thread the needle stretch. If your hips are particularly tight or you're working with a bit of a hip injury, so you're easing off tonight, this might be enough for you already, just having that ankle crossed over the thigh. You can also increase by just pressing the left fingertips into your left thigh. So this is our mild kind of variation if you need to be gentle. Otherwise, knees come in towards the chest. Left hand goes through the gap in the legs. Right hand comes around and we interlace the fingers behind that right thigh. Some of you, if the hips allow and are a little more open, might interlace around that right shin. But it has to be the right amount of stretch for you, which only you can decide. You don't want to be avoiding sensation, but if it's so strong that you're shaking and that your eyes are watering, that's probably an indication that you've gone a bit too far. And you also want to make sure that your head and neck are in a neutral position. So that's why we've got lots of cushions underneath the head. If you find that your chin is still lifting up like this, then you need a little bit more support underneath your head. So we want the neck nice and long. And then once we've got the hands interlaced, the shoulders can let go and can relax. And you might just enjoy that stillness. Eventually, we start to find a little more space. We start to soften into that stretch. We are using the hands. We're using that interlace to pull that right knee in towards us. And we're using the muscles in our left hip, so the hip rotator muscles, to move that left knee away from us. So right knee towards you, left knee away from you. And that should really be getting into your glutes and into your piriformis, your big hip muscles. So again, tuning into your breath, trying not to cut the inhalation or the exhalation short. Breathe in. Slow, steady exhale back out. If you found it helpful to count the breath like we did in our short, sweet pranayama or breathing technique before, you're welcome to repeat that. Inhale for 3, exhale for 4, or in for 4, out for 5. Just always encouraging that exhalation to be a bit longer. Taking 3 last deep breaths here. And then once you get to the end of your 3rd breath, release the interlace. Set that right foot down onto the floor. Hug that left knee into your chest for a moment so you de-rotate the leg with the knee still bent. And then place that foot down onto the floor. Slide both legs out to straight. And just let the blood flush back through that left hip, the glutes, anywhere that you felt the sensation. So kind of release all those layers of connective tissue, create space. And then if you need a little bit of movement there, just a slow roll side to side with your legs. Eventually hands move on to the belly. We just have 3 deep breaths here. So this is our rebound pose, just bringing us back to symmetry before we do the other side. Inhaling and exhaling to soften your body. Then next inhale, float the arms all the way up overhead. Bend the knees, bring the soles of the feet onto the floor, and we'll set up for all of that on the other side. So again, just make sure head, neck well supported. We're going to cross right ankle over the left thigh. Again, just checking that the ankle and the knee are roughly on the same level. So that leaves a little bit more space in the back of your knee joint. And then dropping your knees down to the left. If it helps on the way to tuck your left hip bone underneath you, do that, because often it will help give you a bit more space to bring the legs down. So this time your right foot is standing either on the floor Or if you're easing off, you're stepping that right foot onto your left thigh, bringing up a little bit higher, so it just eases off the sensation in this right hip. So whichever one you're going for, pop your foot there, and then either left fingertips just resting against your inner thigh, or we're reaching down and grabbing hold of that ankle. Either way, the whole point of using the hand for a bit of support is so we stop tensing around the hip. If we don't have any support, then the thigh muscles engage to stop the leg from sliding anywhere or from moving away. So if you want to release completely, we need a little bit of support with the hands. Take your right hand onto your belly, close down the eyes, tuning back into that slow, steady breath. So what yin yoga is particularly useful for is helping us find a slow and calm breathing rhythm, even when we're experiencing a bit of physical discomfort. Some of you might be really comfy here and kind of melting down into the floor. Others of you might be finding this super intense. It's working with the hips. They're big muscle groups. They store a lot of tension. So we really want to work with the breath to find softness everywhere possible in the body. Releasing tension as we breathe out. And finding that calm, steady rhythm. So life isn't always a walk in the park. It's not always easy. It's not always comfortable. That's the skill we are developing through these longer holds. You don't only get this beautiful physical release in the body right now, we kind of develop that ability to find ease, no matter what our comfort level is. So giving yourself another 5 deep breaths. So again, it's roughly a minute. Making the decision, trying to consciously slow down your breathing rhythm. Couple more breaths where you are. And then preparing to release from here. Again, we've been here for a couple of minutes now, so we do want to provide the body with a bit of support as we come out. So sliding your left hand underneath your right foot, and then just easing yourself back onto your mat. Take it slowly. So our transitions are just as important as the poses and stretches themselves. So we don't want to spend all this time releasing and getting nice and relaxed and then kind of jerk ourselves abruptly out of a position. So take it nice and easy. Let your back and pelvis and shoulders realign down the center of your mat. And then we're coming back into our thread the needle, our hip stretch. Flex your right foot. Again, if you're modifying, right hand to the thigh, we're just easing that right thigh away from us. So make sure you're not pushing the knee, push a bit down into the muscle. Otherwise, if you did it on the other side and you think you'll be all right to do it this side, draw the knees in towards you, right hand through the gap in the legs, left hand either meeting your right hand behind the thigh or around the shin. Again, it just depends on your hips. And it depends how it feels on this side of the body for you. Again, we're not perfectly symmetrical. We've got little imbalances between right and left. We all favor one side. One side is probably stronger, more stable, and therefore a little tighter. One side is probably less stable, but a bit more mobile, and therefore a bit more open and accessible for stretches. So just give yourself a few deep breaths here. This time we are drawing the left thigh towards us, using the muscles, the external rotator muscles in the hip to move that right knee away from you. Left knee towards you, right knee away from you, really getting into the hip and the glutes. So we're trying not to react to the sensation or to any thoughts or feelings that bubble up in these deeper hip openers. But instead, taking the time to step back and observe the sensation in the body. The mind is usually drawn to that sensation anyway. But also to observe any thoughts coming up into the mind. Seeing what's there, but staying very much present and with your breath. And just take another 4 deep breaths on the side. And then once you get to the end of your 4 breaths, you're going to release the hands, place that left foot to the floor. Place the right foot onto the floor. Might feel a little bit stuck, so give yourself time. And then stretch the legs out again. So again, if you feel stuck, a bit delicate, or if it feels like your muscles have worked, like you've done a gym session instead of a deep stretch, that is really normal. So we quite strong sensation during and then after. So give your legs a little bit of a rock from side to side, a bit of a stretch. And then take the hands onto the belly. Give yourself 3 deep breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Last deep breath. And then reaching the arms all the way up overhead. Ground the soles of the feet. And then just roll yourself over onto the side of your body. Press down through your hands and bring yourself up off of the mat. So just because it's a really lovely release, again, for the front of the body, we'll come into puppy pose. So you won't actually need any props on the mat for this one, unless you are on a hardwood floor, in which case if you want to have a blanket for underneath the knees, then you're welcome to. If you're on carpet, then you should be fine. So we're walking towards the back of the mat, just so we've got space to reach the arms forward. Taking the hips just above the knees about hip width apart, and then dropping down onto the forearms. So start with your elbows just underneath your shoulders. And then keep your hips and knees exactly where they are, and start to shift your elbows forward. So the further forward the arms go, the more you feel the chest the stretch in your chest. It's Friday, I've lost the ability to speak properly. So really keep stretching those arms forward. You might decide to interlace the hands. And then let the forehead rest to the floor. Let the chest melt down towards the mat. So it's a big stretch for the pectorals. So we're lengthening the chest muscles. Bringing the spine into an extension. So lovely release if you've been sitting at a computer for most of your day. If there's a few of you who have the chest a little closer to the ground, you're going to be feeling like the face is getting a bit squished if you're on your forehead. So if that's the case, if it really feels like your face is getting squished, you can try coming onto the chin. But that's only if it feels like the natural progression, kind of next option for you to take. But if that's not comfortable, come back to that first option. And there might be a little bit of movement as you breathe here. So inhaling, maybe lifting slightly, expanding the rib cage, and then exhaling to release and drop everything a little bit closer to the ground. Inhaling and exhaling. Tune into the sound of your breath while you're here, always working with the breath to slow down, to become present, to find ease in the body. Final deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Lift the head just off the floor. Look forward and then just slide yourself forward onto the belly. And just coming out of there for a moment. And we're going to slide our left leg up next to the left hip. So you want it level with your hip bone or higher. Don't have it further away. We're trying to release the lower back in this position. Make a pillow for your forehead to rest on. So it might be elbows wide and forehead on the hands. You might want to turn onto the cheek. And then stay here if this is enough. If you want to take it into a little bit of a side stretch, you're going to lift the head and chest and then just walk your elbows or your left elbow towards that left knee. And then come down onto your cheek, right cheek or left cheek. You can change the position of the arms to make a pillow for your head. Just keep left knee and left elbow towards each other. And then feel that gentle release into the side of your body, into that right side of the body here. And then you can close the eyes. Make sure that you are warm throughout your practice. So if at any point you need to grab a blanket or extra pillows or go and get socks on, make sure you do. It's always worth adding on extra layers so you don't get cold while we're holding these poses for longer. So we're starting to move towards our restorative poses now. So less sensation, probably more comfort. And that'll be reflected in your breathing. So a slow, steady breath. And the idea is physical relaxation and mental relaxation. Mentally switching off from your day, from your week. Much easier said than done. So try to settle the mind on your breathing. We often use the breath to help focus the mind because it is the one thing that is consistent and in the present. So just check in that your body is relaxing here, shoulders soft, face relaxed, no tension anywhere in your body. allowing the breath to expand into the back of your rib cage. So even though the belly is on the floor, we want to keep taking deep breaths here. We've got 3 last deep breaths in this gentle side stretch. So I'm creating a little bit of space in the right side of the body. And once you've done your 3 breaths, just lifting the head, slowly shifting upper body back onto your mat, sliding that left leg back behind you. Take your head down and give the hips just a gentle shake out from side to side. And then getting ready to change over. So we're sliding that right knee right up to level with your hip bone, or a little bit higher if you can. It really helps to take it out of the lower back. And then moving right elbow towards that right knee. We're coming all the way across and then letting the head rest down, changing the position of the arms if you need to, so your head can just rest onto your upper arm. And I mentioned releasing into the side of the body. It's not going to be a huge stretch. It's going to be a very gentle release, creating space in the muscles between the ribs, the intercostal muscles. You might feel a little bit around your lower back on that left side. But mainly it's a nice release for the lower back. It takes the pressure off. Hopefully it feels quite comfortable for your body. Try and relax your shoulders, close down the eyes. And then breathing here, finding that calm and steady breathing rhythm. Finding softness around your eyes and in your jaw. So allowing the whole body to release down into your mat, into any supports you're using. So it shouldn't feel like you have to hold the body at all. Should feel well supported. Got another 5 deep breaths on the side. And there's no rush, but when you do reach the end of your 5th breath, we're just going to bring ourselves back onto the belly. Rolling yourself back, giving the hips a bit of a roll out from side to side. And then shifting the hands under the shoulders. Press yourself up. Sit the hips back to the heels. Come into a gentle child's pose. You might be making a pillow for the forehead if the head doesn't quite touch the floor. And we're not staying here very long. It's more a release after being on the belly for a while. Just check that we've properly released our lower back before we move on. So let's say about 5 breaths here, inhaling into the back of your rib cage. Exhale, releasing shoulders, neck, and face. Hips dropping down towards the heels, doesn't matter if they are not touching. And really using this time to observe and slow down the breath even further. As we transition out of our child's pose, we're trying to disturb ourselves the uh, smallest amount possible. You're just rolling yourself all the way up. And then just finding a comfortable seat. So whether that is with your legs crossed out in front of you, or maybe you're sitting up on a little bit of height. And we're going to set up our mat ready to go for our relaxation. So our next transition is a really easy one. We're going to do left-sided lying to finish with. So it's basically just lying on the left side of the body. There's kind of nothing special or surprising about it. You just want to make sure your pillow, whatever you're using underneath the head, is quite high. So we don't want a small blanket or something. Give yourself a proper pillow, and then have another cushion, blanket, or pillow for between your legs. So we'll just have that set up ready to go, and then finish this with a little bit of seated meditation here. Find a comfortable position. Maybe that is sitting with your back resting against a wall if you're close to one. You can let the head and the shoulder blades rest against the wall. Otherwise, positioning the shoulders over the hips, finding length in the back, closing the eyes, and just sitting quietly. Word meditation can conjure up certain connotations. Monks meditating in the cave, going for days and days without food, and it's really not what it is all about. It is just giving ourselves a mental break by becoming present. So we take the mind away from obsessing about things that have already happened, obsessing over things that might happen, planning for potential outcomes, creating lists of things that you need to get done. Pulls us away from all of that and just brings us back to the present. And we do that through observing the breath, sticking with that slow, steady rhythm. And observing and acknowledging thoughts as they come and go. So it's not about emptying the mind. You still acknowledge everything, every thought, every image, every story that comes into the mind. We just don't get caught up in it. we stay with our breath. We take the position of the observer, removed, detached. You notice the points of contact your body has with your mat. Perhaps you're aware of the different surfaces beneath your body, different textures, different temperatures of those surfaces. Notice where you feel the breath moving in your body. Keeping that focus, disturbing yourself as little as possible, making your way to lie on your left side. Left hip, left shoulder on the mat, head resting on your pillow, and perhaps a cushion between the knees, between the ankles, to keep your pelvis and lower back level and supported. And then if you would like an extra blanket to cover the body, pull one in over your shoulders, and in particular the lower back. Often if we cover that area, we feel a lot warmer. So if we tuck that blanket right in around the base of the spine. Making any last little adjustments you need to get comfortable here. And then just finding softness in the body. Keeping that same observation of your breath and of your thought patterns, the movements of your mind. Perhaps no longer trying to direct your breath, to stick with your natural breathing rhythm. And give yourself this time to access those deeper layers of relaxation. Engaging the branch of the nervous system, which is on our relaxation response. Lowers our stress levels, fills us with this lovely calm feeling, calm energy. Allowing the whole body to relax. Embracing this time to recharge, re-energize, refresh. And just accessing that calm, peaceful state. Underneath all the layers of work, family expectations, to-do lists. Finding that nice, calm sense of grounding and ease in your body. Whole body relaxed. And then bit by bit, we are just inviting the attention back to the surface. So back into the body, feeling the supports beneath us, noticing that space around us, and slowly starting to move and stretch the body if you are ready to. If you are tucked up and warm and really don't feel like moving, then just stay where you are for as long as you want to. Have an extended relaxation. If you're ready to move, wriggling fingers and toes, maybe moving the hands and the feet, rolling out the wrists, the ankles, and then stretching the arms up overhead, taking a deep breath in, exhaling there, and pushing your bolster out from between the legs, and just making your way up to a comfortable seat. So any comfortable seat that works for you. You can keep the eyes closed. And again, absolutely fine if you are still lying down and don't feel like moving. If you are joining me in Sukhasana, easy cross-leg position, we're going to breathe in, take the arms out and up. And then exhale, hands together at heart center, Anjali Mudra, prayer mudra. Inhale, sitting tall. And exhaling the head down towards the heart center, sealing your practice. Taking a moment to enjoy this feeling of relaxation, deep rest. And seeing if you can take some of that calmness and peace with you into your weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Lovely to have you. Namaste. Thank you, guys.